first official lunar forecast and collective reading for the partial solar eclipse new moon in Taurus. Now, if you haven't already, go check out my new moon introduction video that I posted yesterday. Though I will say it's actually not going to be very relevant in terms of the practice that we need to do for this phase, just because there is a solar eclipse. However, there will be some very useful exercises there that will help you and support you in reconnecting with your body, which brings us to the theme of the new moon, which is reconnecting with our bodies. And under the sign of Taurus, this is actually a very supportive energy. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is responsible for love, beauty, our values, and our relationships. And in this case, particularly with the relationship that we have with ourselves, Venus energy and Taurus energy just knows how to really embody that self-care, self-love that really supports us through the nurturing and care not only of ourselves but of the energy that we carry forward through the lunar cycles. So Taurus is a fixed sign, and fixed signs through the zodiac are responsible for stabilizing and for orienting things. So that is why Tauruses often have a reputation for being very stubborn. And I have to admit, yes, that is very true. I'm a Taurus sun, and Mercury as well. So I can definitely relate to that. But ultimately, it just really comes from a need to have stability, particularly around our finances and our resources. So there comes a need to learn how to strike a balance as well when it comes to indulging in self-care to a point where it can become a little bit materialistic. We have to just make sure that we're walking a very delicate line when it comes to that, because Taurus is ruled by the second house as well, and the second house in our charts represents our financial lives, our security, as well as our own personal values. So, like I mentioned, the tendency to become a little bit materialistic can cause us to seek things outside of ourselves and to not take advantage of the energy of Venus, which is very grounding within ourselves. It can kind of take us outside of that into the material world. And we have to just be very mindful that we don't get too caught up in it and overindulge to the point where we're not taking care of our responsibilities. It's perfectly fine to indulge once in a while. I mean, this is a great time to do it as well. However, we just have to ensure that we're taking care of the things that require our attention immediately and that are most important, whatever that may be for you. So a very good practice in this lunar energy and in this moment is actually appreciating what we do have and practicing gratitude towards the things that we have, and learning how to ground ourselves in our senses and within our bodies without feeling like I will be able to when I get the next thing. That is not being oriented in the present, and we have to learn to find ways to ground ourselves when we lack the things that we believe we need to help us ground ourselves within ourselves. And the challenge for that can be seeking things that actually don't cost money. Being able to ground ourselves in our body doesn't have to cost money. Taurus is also an earth sign. Venus is earth. So even going outside, appreciating nature, grounding ourselves in the earth with the trees will be a very important practice in this season in the month of May. And again, it doesn't cost any money to be able to really connect with nature, and within the energy that exists right now, that can be very grounding for us and can help us look beyond the materialistic views that we can sometimes carry with this energy. Now, this new moon in particular is special for two reasons. The first one being that this is the second new moon in the month of April, which is a rare occurrence because typically there is only one new moon and one full moon phase in each month. So in this case, the second new moon would be called the black moon. And it doesn't have any particular astrological energy that shifts as a result of that. However, I will say the fact that like Aries season is in April, which is already very young energy, and then the energies of two new moons and a full moon within 1 month. This month of April has been very go, 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 and I've definitely been feeling that energy. And it's kind of like going towards the end of the month, approaching Taurus season, which while they are very hardworking, Tauruses also know when the moment comes to just chill and stand back. It's almost a bit conflicting. So, but it actually works out very well, because the second reason why this is a special new moon is because we are experiencing a partial solar eclipse during this new moon as well. And that energy of Taurus, where we just kind of take a step back and chill, is going to become very important in this moment. So a solar eclipse occurs when the moon aligns perfectly with the ecliptic between the sun and the earth, and completely covers the rays of the sun that are coming down. And the ecliptic is just the path that the sun takes through the sky. So eclipses can bring very chaotic cosmic energy. You know, even back in ancient civilizations, whenever eclipses occurred, it was a very chaotic, scary, disruptive time, and it's definitely not any different. The reason why we can, or we shouldn't rather, manifest, and again, there's various different opinions around this, but I really do identify with this reason, is that we have our two luminaries that, you know, embody their own energies and work on their own. They're kind of interacting with each other in a way where they're blocking each other's potential, and that alone can cause a lot of chaos. So it's better to just kind of observe and see what happens. This is also a time where things outside of our control tend to happen as well. And again, the way that the universe works sometimes is completely out of our control. It definitely reminds me of the Tower card from Tarot. In case you're not familiar, it's this card here. So the Tower, which I know looks kind of intimidating, but essentially what it is, it takes our foundation that we've built and it shakes it up a bit so that we're able to realign to our purpose in a new way. And of course, this can be very disheartening, especially when we've worked so hard to build something and then it just collapses to be like, nope, go in this direction. But there's typically a very good reason, and it typically aligns us with our highest purpose. So the eclipse energies are not like the moon energies, where the moon phases move very quickly. In this case, the eclipse energy is a 1.5 year long energy that we've been experiencing. So we can expect to experience this up until November of this year, during the lunar eclipse that will also be in Taurus. And back in November 19th of 2021, we had a solar eclipse in Taurus as well. So I would just be curious around what happened around that time, any shifts or changes that you noticed, how you were impacted, because you will see familiar themes coming up again during this eclipse season as well. So yes, this energy, this chaotic energy, can be very disruptive to Taurus energy, because Taurus energy, like I said, is a fixed sign and really looks for stability and comfort, and you really cannot plan or manifest anything during this phase. We really have to kind of lean into the Taurus energy that just takes a step back and just rest. Rest will be very important right now, even though this is a young energy. This is an exception because of the eclipse. And when we allow ourselves to rest in this moment and to just observe, to see the direction that the universe takes us, wherever that may be, and ground ourselves and reconnect with ourselves, in a sensation-based way, where we're taking into account how our body's feeling, that can kind of be the best compass in this moment and the best guide in terms of getting through the chaos that this energy brings. So that is my lunar forecast. So I'm going to head over and start doing the collective reading. So for this reading, I'm going to be doing 3 piles, and I'm going to make it eclipse specific for this one. So I will be pulling 3 cards in each pile. Each card, so the first card will represent what this eclipse energy will be bringing into your life. The second card will represent how your foundations are going to shift as a result of this eclipse energy. And then the third card is going to be how you can ground yourself within yourself to best navigate this energy. So I'll be placing 3 crystals on top of each pile, and I'll give you a moment. You can pause it actually and just kind of see where your body experiences a reaction, wherever that may be, and allow your intuition to guide you to see what message can best support you during this time. If you chose the amethyst, this reading will be for you. So right off the bat, I can see 2 major themes existing right now. So we have the Emperor and the Hierophant. So I'll start with the Emperor. So the Emperor is here in reverse, facing towards the south, which is fire energy. So it refers to anything related to our ambitions, our passions, our spirituality. The Emperor is someone that is authoritative. They're represented by Aries energy. So again, very much fire energy, very, what's the word I want to use? Very wanting to impose their way and their will onto others. However, when we see it in reverse, it suggests that you're adopting and embodying a more compassionate approach to the spheres of your work, your public life, and how you're governing or leading others. There's been a switch to a more compassionate approach when it comes to that. And that's kind of the energy that's existing within this eclipse, is like, how do I go from like being a leader that's like coming down on people and probably not concerning themselves so much with how that's having an impact on others, to becoming more compassionate and finding a balance of like how to follow through in action with decisions while having compassion, when to be honest it's much easier to get things done when you're just like imposing yourself on others. So it's like striking that balance. That's kind of the energy I'm seeing, is shifting into a more compassionate one. How I'm seeing how this could be grounded currently through the Hierophant, which is facing towards the east, which represents air energy. So it has anything to do with our mind, our intellectual domain. And the Hierophant is a divine teacher and ruler. It suggests the areas of our lives and the areas within ourselves that feels as though we have to conform, follow tradition, follow rules in order to be accepted by others around us. And I would say that with the Emperor energy is kind of the energy that's embodied within capitalism, right? You have to get this work done. There's no really consideration outside of that. And now I'm seeing, as it's tilting towards the east, this would be considered upright. It's still upright. There's still like a desire to follow the rules and follow the ways that things have been done. However, there's almost like a shift that's happening of like seeing in which ways you can play by the rules that are defined by society. However, doing it in a way that's slightly unorthodox but still within what is accepted. And considering these things of like spiritually, how can you incorporate that into a material reality? How can you incorporate that into your work? Just having a more well-rounded perspective of how you need to navigate these areas of your life. it just seems like there's a lot of thought that's being put into like how you've been approaching things, not necessarily just from like a material level as shown through the Emperor, but also through like a spiritual understanding, and also wanting to honor the traditions and the rules that currently do exist at the same time. So finding perhaps a nice balance between the two could help ground you in the energy that is existing. Now, in terms of how your foundations will shift during this eclipse, we have here the Ace of Pentacles, and it is facing upwards, upright, towards the north, which represents earth energy. So this is a very earth heavy card. So you can expect the areas around your career, around your finances, around the resources that you have around you to start shifting in this moment. However, the aces represent the gifts from the universe that we don't necessarily really do to deserve. They're just gifts that just come. And what it's saying to me is that while there will be some shifts that you're experiencing, you don't have to worry about lacking, because there's going to be an abundance of resources at your disposal. Regardless of the shifts that are occurring, you can be secure in the fact that you will be protected, not even protected, but secured in that aspect. So that's the reading for Amethyst. Perhaps I find that because the Hierophant and the Emperor are leaders in their domain, so leaders of the spiritual, leaders of the material world, plus with the Pentacles, I'm seeing that this reading can relate to most likely your career, is what I'm feeling. So there's a lot of energy and shifts around that, and it totally makes sense. We're in Taurus season right now, which is our finances and our resources. So just something to be mindful of for those of you that picked Amethyst. If you picked the green Citrine, this reading will be for you. Now, immediately when I saw this reading, the first thing I wanted to do is give y'all a hug, because there's a lot of emotionally charged energy within these three cards. The first thing I noticed right away is that each card is facing towards the east, which is represented by water, again, signifying our emotions. We have the King of Cups, the Five of Cups, more water, and then the King of Swords. Now you'll notice that I mentioned that there are two kings. Typically, when you see two kings in a reading, it suggests a confrontation. The King of Cups typically represents fatherhood as well, and the kings represent masculine energies in particular. So it could be something relating to like a father or father figure, or like a provider within your life. That's what it's suggesting to me. Now, we have the kings facing east, which suggests that they are reversed. So these are the qualities of the king that are embodied perhaps not in the most supportive ways. With the king in reverse, you'll notice that he falls, or the king falls into codependency, having to need someone to help regulate their emotions with, because they're not able to do so on their own. The King of Swords can become very demanding and imposing of their ideas and beliefs onto others, and almost unwilling to compromise, unwilling to meet halfway, just very like stubborn in that energy. And between the king and the King of Swords and the King of Cups, there's also this energy of masculinity that's not allowing emotions to flow through, even though there's a lot of emotion within the cards. So in terms of the energy that's being brought in, it's like an energy of like almost a sense of loss around someone that was extremely important to you. And I believe how to ground into that energy, it's almost like the instinct is to become completely rational around what's happening. I feel like that's almost like an instinct of what you need to do next or how to approach it next. However, I have the Five of Cups here. So the Five of Cups, in terms of how your foundation will shift, this loss is going to shift a lot, but in this moment, there seems to be a period of grieving and mourning that's happening. And within that energy, it's very difficult to know how to approach the next step or what the purpose of this confrontation and conflict that is existing, what its higher purpose is. And it almost feels like there's an energy of like getting past it or rushing through it. However, I will say that right now, in terms of like reconnecting, oh wow, this candle just went out too. Interesting. In terms of like reconnecting with your body, it feels extremely important, even the directions of the cards, for you to actually process your emotions and to really sit with it and to really feel what's coming up as a result of that. In the original Rider-Waite deck, there's 3 cups that are fallen, and however, like these 3 cups are empty, yet these 2 are still brimming with something. There's still options left. There's still something left for you within all this loss. However, its ability to truly reveal itself to you will be dependent on your ability to allow yourself to process and feel the emotions that are coming up as a result of this loss. So be very gentle with yourselves, be very patient and compassionate as you navigate this situation. Be mindful of confrontations and how you approach them. It might be much too fresh right now, so I would say just like hold off a little bit, allow yourself to feel and process your emotions so you're able to show up to this confrontation in a way that's honors how you want to show up and is safe for you emotionally. If you chose the black tourmaline, this will be your reading. So I see here 2 major themes. So there's the magician that we have here, and it's in reverse, however, facing the east, signifying water and emotions. And then we have the hermit, which is in reverse, facing south. So it has to do around our own personal passions, desires, spiritualities. Right here we have the Page of Wands, and that's in the position of like what the energy of this eclipse is bringing in. Facing north, which is earth, material, our material world or material reality. The Page of Wands is a messenger. So what I'm seeing here is that you can expect to hear some news around your creative projects, your career, your passions. You can expect to hear some news around that that's going to impact your material reality and your resources. That's like the energy that's coming in and is being brought forth through the wands. And I wanted to make a note as well. In this tarot deck, the Dark Days, the wands suits represents air and the swords represents fire for this particular deck, and that's how I'm going to be reading it. So I see here an emphasis to use our minds and to be almost like quick-witted, just be mindful and just be very observant around what messages you're receiving and how you can best use this energy to go forward in your desired way in terms of your projects, your creative pursuits, and your career. Now I have the Magician here facing towards the east, signifying your emotions, and the Magician uses their mind to manifest and ground spiritual energy into our material reality. when it's in reverse, there's almost like a call to create that power within yourself before you're able to really manifest that within your reality. And it looks like there's like an emphasis on your emotions. And oftentimes, like when we manifest and we direct energy, a lot of it is mental work and being able to identify what it is and being able to ground it. And whatever we're not addressing emotionally can impact what is showing up, how it's showing up, when it's showing up. So I would say the foundations that are shifting within your life right now in terms of this eclipse energy will be the way that you're experiencing your emotion, and like perhaps recognizing the ways that your emotion is impacting the foundations that you're creating right now, and perhaps how you can balance the opposite way, maybe towards the east, towards air. How can you include some of that so you're able to have a balanced approach of how you're creating the manifestations within your life to create a more stable foundation. Relying too much on emotions does not allow a foundation to stick, to be firm, to be grounded. There's just too much water energy and it's too fluid. However, focusing just on our mind and our intellect can at times create a very strong foundation that's too rigid to the point where it just needs to be broken down because of how sturdy it is when you recognize eventually that it's not necessarily what you wanted. So I would say right now there's a call to recognize and learn your own personal power within your ability to create a foundation that's sustainable and strong for you. So there is a call to reconnect within your own body and to recognize how your emotions are coming through in your ability to create this for yourself. In terms of how to ground that energy, the Hermit here in reverse particularly, so facing south again, which is fire energy, for me it's giving me more of like a spiritual teacher or spiritual guide energy, and how perhaps we're not taking in the guidance and the wisdom that may be shared with us by others, simply because like it seems like sometimes with the Hermit, when it's in reverse, avoiding responsibility and avoiding decisions so that you can just almost be like in a childlike state and not create more wisdom and depth within yourself because you're almost like avoiding it. So when the Hermit is in reverse, particularly, it's a call to come back into the world, to come back to others before we get stuck in a rut of just feeling as though we don't need anyone and we don't need anyone else's guidance, when at the end of the day we're beings that require belonging with others. We've only survived and gone in this far in our civilization by coming together and learning from each other and progressing forward. So a good way to ground your energy in this moment is just to be mindful of any spiritual guides or teachers, and that can be, this doesn't have to even be another human, anything, nature or animal teachers, anything. Just create more room within yourself to listen to the guidance of others and how that can support you in grounding yourself currently to help develop something greater than what you can create on your own.